I like to call myself GP with special interest in pounds.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a reason. So, in the course of my stay in the UK, I've encountered a lot of problems, from issues with credit card, from issues with being swindled. I've been scammed. I've lost money. I've done a lot of stupid things in the UK. So, those things have actually motivated me to research.
Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Laju. If you're new here, you are highly welcome. I share videos on lifestyle and career tips for health workers and immigrants moving and living in the UK. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back again and sticking with me on this journey. Today, we'll be talking about investment opportunities in the UK. I said we because I have a guest appearance whom I would introduce to you shortly. Before I introduce him, please go ahead to like my video and subscribe to my channel. Today, I have with me here Dr. Ejiro Eyaru. He's a general practitioner located in Essex. He's been in the UK for 8 years, and today he'll be sharing with us investment opportunities in the UK. I'm excited about this topic, and I'm sure you are also. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Eyaru.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Before we go into the crux of the matter, the investment opportunity, because I know a lot of people are looking forward to this topic, I would just like to ask you a few personal questions, if that's okay.
Absolutely. All right.
All right. So you write very well. I've read a couple of your Facebook posts, they're very inspiring, entertaining. So I'm just wondering, is this a hobby for you, or have you considered going in the career path of an author, a blogger, the likes?
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. It's a hobby, so I think it's easier if I told you how it all started.
Okay.
Yeah. So it actually started from NDUK. Incidentally, I always looked for a platform where I could share ideas in terms of tips of living in the UK successfully with people, and I think NDUK was like a godsend. So I think initially I started by putting normal mundane information about how to navigate life in the UK, but eventually I decided to move from there to try out writing reflections on my personal experiences I've had. So I found out that, okay, yeah, I could just reflect on stuff, write about it. And with time, I found out I became better at it. And even now I keep learning. So for me, it's almost like, will you say it's a hobby? Will I say it's a hobby? I'll say yes, it's a hobby, because sometimes I sit back and I reflect, what issues have I experienced in my past life that can I reflect on, and people will probably find useful. I think so. Those are things that actually motivate me to write. But the other thing also, if you notice in my writing, sometimes I make it a bit funny.
Yeah,
Because I know that sometimes people don't just want all the mundane stuff and read and read and read it. There should be an element that's like, oh, it causes you to like chuckle, you laugh, like something infusing that. How would I put it now? I think it's more the Nigerian in me. So if it actually comes true in my writing. So, and currently, to me, I will say like writing is an escape route. Anyway, I'm currently working on 2 books, so I've been writing stuff. And I'm sure I've shared a lot of my writing on NDUK. There are actually books in there. So that's how it is for me.
Oh, nice. I'll be looking forward to them when they come out. That's good to know. Because when I read your stories, I'm like, oh, you should really write a book. Like you really have, you have the sense of humor, you have you know how to keep people engaged. Your writing is really, really good. Well done. Now, the next question I would like to ask is this: as a doctor, at what point did you develop your interest for financial knowledge? Like, not to be offensive, but I feel like a lot of people, especially doctors, they're not financial literate. It's just to go to work, earn some money, and the mundane 9 to 5 life. So for you, at what point did you, because from your writing, you've shared some articles on finances. So I'm like, your stuff. So was it something that just happened? Was it a personal research, or how did it come along?
Well, I like to call myself GP with special interest in pounds. Yes. There's a reason. So, in the course of my stay in the UK, I've encountered a lot of problems. When I say, I mean a lot of problems. From issues with credit card, from issues with being swindled.
Mm.
I've been scammed. I've lost money. I've done a lot of stupid things in the UK. So those things have actually motivated me to research. Now, what I think the other thing that also motivated me was that there was nobody to point me in the right direction. So I felt, based on the fact, because my mantra is the fact that I've gone through a situation or I've made a mistake, those coming behind me shouldn't make the same mistake. So so that's what motivates me to like get that information. What information would someone coming into the UK, what information would they need to actually navigate these issues safely? So based on that, over time I just like learn, okay, I need to learn about credit cards. How do credit cards work? So I go online, I do a bit of research, I read multiple articles to get what the common points are. And many times those articles are so lengthy. So what I attempt to do is to break it down to bite sizes, such that when people read it, they get the full gist without being exposed to multiple lengthy, boring stuff. Yeah. And I think the other thing also is that when living in the UK, you find out that it's almost like hand to mouth. You are spending a lot of money, but you tend to now realize, wow, at some point I'm going to retire. At some point I'm going to need emergency funds. At some point I'm going to have like an investment. And if you look at the Nigerian financial sector, it's quite different from the UK. So I think those things have motivated me to research. And personally, I like to share my research, because I feel if I share my research, somebody else may have something to add which I did not see, and somebody may save it for the future and becomes useful to them. So that's just what has led to down the path of money, basically.
All right, thanks for that. So getting to today's topic about investment, as you said, you have a lot of information. So I really thought deep, like, what question can I ask you that people really benefit from? Like, you've spoken about credit cards, tax, those are things on my mind. But when I read the articles, I'm like, you've answered these questions. So what investment opportunities are there in the UK?
Okay, so that's a very broad question. Investment opportunities. I think my answer will be limited to what I know.
Yes, that's fine.
So I think what I tend to find in the UK, first of all, I'll start from the not so very attractive and move on up from there. I know some of these things could be capital intensive. So I think one thing I came to realize here is that they have things called ISA, that's individual savings accounts. Back home in Nigeria, we had fixed deposits, and when fixed deposits was fixed deposit, people had like good returns on money that they kept in the bank. In fact, that actually helped me in building my finances to get to the UK. I did a lot of fixed deposits. But in the UK, the equivalent of our fixed deposit back home is the ISA. Now, your individual savings account, the beauty about it is that anybody can open ISA. It doesn't matter if you're on a tier 2 visa, you're a British citizen. The problem I have with ISA is that usually the interest rates are very low. So with ISA, you get interest rates as low as 0.5%, and someone will give you interest rates as probably as high as 1% or 1.5%. The problem is that because of inflation, whatever interest you're able to gather from that investment, you find that over time, inflation actually wipes it off. So your money, when you keep it in the bank, in the next 1 year, it may look numerically higher, but when you look at what inflation has done, it has eaten up all that. So that's one thing it's there. You can do that. But there are different kinds of ISAs. I think recently I talked about something called lifetime ISA, where you can put some money down, at least £4,000 a year, and the government will give you 25% on top of that. And that can be, you usually start that before you are, you have to start saving before you are 40 and after you are 18. And you can't touch that money till you're about 55, 60. But I think it's a good long-term way to save. So that's the cash ISA. Basically ISAs are there. Now, the beauty about an ISA is that usually one thing that we really complain about or we moan about sometimes is in the UK, tax is always there. Every time you make money, the Queen is always wanting to come and get her share, apparently. So, but the beauty of the ISA is that it's tax exempt. So even if no matter how much you make from an ISA, it doesn't matter the kind of ISA, you never ever pay tax on it. Yeah. So, and your ISA, your normal ISA, it can be your there's something called a cash ISA, where it is just cash you put in the bank, as an ISA. So the ISA is described as a wrapper, basically. You put cash in the bank and they give you 0.5% to 1.5%. So that's for the ISA, right? Cash ISA. Apart from the cash ISA, you have the shares ISA. So for the shares ISA, you actually open an ISA account, and the purpose of the funds is actually to buy shares. So the beauty of it now is that I remember back home in Nigeria, I always needed like a stockbroker to tell you, oh, buy this or buy that.
Yeah.
Are you ready to buy? Are you ready to sell? But technology has made things so easy, such that you can open a cash ISA. Once you open that cash ISA, you on your own, you can decide what shares you want to buy, when you want to buy them, and when you sell. So I think that's one thing about the shares ISA. Interestingly, you can have a cash ISA, you can have a shares ISA. So you can have different ISAs running concurrently. Now, the only thing is that for each financial year that runs from April to April in the UK, you have an ISA allowance. So your ISA allowance basically is £20,000. So that's all you can save in an ISA. Everything else that is saved or used for buying shares or whatever is you are going to get taxed for whatever interest that you make. But I think the other thing also I would consider for like the cash ISA, because I have a cash ISA myself. I monitor the markets. There's an app called Free Trade, which I use. And with Free Trade, I can monitor global stock markets, and I can tell the trends of, okay, which shares are going up, which shares are going down, what should I buy, blah, blah, blah. Now, there are very profitable companies out there in financial square. But when you look at those companies, for instance, if you look at a company like Google, Google shares is trading about £3,000 per share. And you ask yourself, wow, I don't have £3,000.
So just true like that.
Yes. So where do I get £3,000? Just one share. Now, the beauty of using apps like Free Trade and also with modern technology, you don't need to buy a whole share. You can actually buy a part of a share. So it's what you call fractional shares. The beauty of buying a fractional share is that if a whole share increases in value by 5%, your fractional share, even if it's £100 you bought, will also appreciate by 5%. And the same applies for losses. So that's one thing. But like I said, one thing about shares is that you need to know your market. You need to educate yourself. I can't overemphasize that enough. As far as finances go, the most important thing is education and information. So once you have that information about what you are going to do there, that's you know how to enter, because you could make losses also. So it's a volatile market with shares. So that's one aspect. The other aspect in terms of investment, I think property is a very popular one, especially among local British people. They love property. The beauty of property is that with time, the value would always increase. It's always increasing value. I think figures will have it that for every 10 years, when you buy property, it actually doubles in value every 10 years.
Okay.
So usually it's a long-term investment. So the question most times people ask, like, wow, it's a lot of money. How I can barely afford to buy my own house. How do I then invest in property? There are multiple ways to get into property. If you don't have enough capital, there are people who crowdfund. So you could have people pulling resources together to buy a property. Definitely you have agreements that are drawn up, interest rates and things like that. So whatever comes out of the property, you actually share from that. So that's on the lower end. Although some people they have a lot of finances, they can actually still crowdfund. It's only that they'll have a larger chunk of that. If you go on from there, the other thing you can do, there are property developers. What they tend to do is that they take money from individuals. And once they take that money from individuals, they invest. So they take the money, invest it in property, and at the end of the financial year or any agreed time, they split. I think somebody was offering me, this was in the last 48 hours, because we were talking about a deal somewhere, and I was like, okay, fine. If you give me this amount of money, at the end of this time, I'll give you 25% and all that, because sometimes it can be profitable. Then the other part for property, there's also something called the rent to rent. Many people don't know about that. Some people do.
I've heard about it.
So what the rent to rent involves is that, fine, you may not have the property, but you have someone who owns the property.
Yeah.
This person is not interested in managing property. So the landlord gives you the property essentially. And the agreement is such that you pay them a fixed amount of money every month, pay it back to them. Then you in turn, you manage the property, getting tenants there, and they actually they pay their rent. So the difference between what the tenant is giving to you and what the landlord is asking from you. So that difference becomes your profit.
Your money.
A lot of people do it successfully, but you think that you should know the area properly and know what sort of tenants are there. So that's that. Apart from the rent to rent, for property also, there's also the most popular one, which is the buy to let. So the buy to let basically is a simple thing. You buy a property. Now, buying a property, we know that except you have a ton of cash lying out around there, you wouldn't shell out all your cash to buy property. So usually you have your deposits. Now, in this case, for properties, most times they would require you to buy, say, put down 25% of the value of property. You still pay 3% of stamp duty, but you rent it out. The beauty of buy-to-let is that you can choose to manage it on your own, or you can get a letting agent to let it out on your behalf and manage it. The only thing is that they take a 10%, anywhere from 10 to 12% as their commission. So that is all factored in. I think the most, for me, the most attractive one is a house of multiple occupancy, where you get a house and you rent out individual rooms in the house. If you do that, you actually make more money than, say, a single buy to let. So there are many strategies, but the most important thing is education. You need to know the market you are getting into. You need to understand the dynamics, because if you don't, you are going to lose a lot of money. Let me point in case. Case in point, I had an issue recently. I've been trying to make some investment, and I lost a lot of money. In the since October till now, there was a deal I was trying to get into. I've lost about £2,000 just trying to do that. But for me, it is it's a lesson, yes. But it's a learning curve for myself. Once I get the lessons all pinned down, so those are ideas I can share to like get people to know, see, these are the pitfalls you experience or you encounter, and these are ways to actually circumvent them. So there's a lot. People have been talking recently because of the volatility of the money markets. Another thing that people have looked at is Bitcoin. I can't tell you I know much about Bitcoin. I'm still educating myself on Bitcoin, but at the end of the day, you need to understand what your comfort level or your risk level is.
Yeah, that's the rule of thumb. Where you don't invest more than you can afford to invest.
Yes, not just if I afford to invest, I afford to lose.
Lose, yes.
Even financial markets will tell you that your capital is at risk, so that your expectations are you gauge your expectations on what returns you could actually have on such investment. So I think, in summary, that's just like I don't think it's exhaustive anyway, but
it's an overview. It's a good place to start, really, because I've been doing a lot of research myself, my husband and I, and like you mentioned, rent to rent, it was something that we even bought a course. We were going into it last year before the whole pandemic, because and then the Bitcoin part, crypto, I'm actually into it in a way, but like you said, what can you afford to lose? Because what I realized is when you hear these things, they're all risky. Like there's nothing that you, like you said, you lost £2,000. Some people are like, what? But you can afford to lose that. Some people will lose it, and that's all. You said some keywords in the beginning: emergency fund, retirement. These are things that you are looking at. You're not just looking at the immediate life of, okay, I earn a salary, and also investment is like building wealth for the future also. And I think that's one of the reasons Warren Buffett became very popular. He was someone that he started trading in all his stocks and stuff when people were not even looking at it. And how many years down the line, suddenly he was one of the richest people in the world because he was investing at a very early stage. So
I need to add something, if you don't mind.
All right.
One thing I would say I've discovered about the UK is, if you tell people that, oh, I have this amount of money to invest, you have 1,000 people trying to get you to hand that money over in different ways.
Yeah.
Property. Oh, I have this property here. I want you to come and buy. you always do your due diligence. Like I said, you need to check. Somebody will say, oh, I have this course for you to attend. Now, what I found out about courses for financial things is that nearly every information that someone is selling in a course is available for free.
Oh, yes.
So it's always important to find out that places where those resources are, and just a bit of searching, and you find those resources, take them at your pace at no financial cost to yourself. Because that's one thing. Some people can attend financial courses, how to invest in property, paid thousands and thousands. At the end of the day, really makes no difference for them. So it's something to really be careful about.
True.
Yeah.
I'm not building on that. Like, you know, I think the reason people pay for courses is probably if I pay for it, I'll be more committed, because YouTube alone is like a minefield, or, you know, like there's so much information on what you want.
Yeah.
Or another reason is, oh, maybe this person has promised that they will walk you through, because a lot of people we like to be spoon-fed, you get. So you probably just watch a video on YouTube and you get the basic knowledge. But then when you hear somebody saying, oh, if you pay for my course, I'll tell you exactly. A lot of us are like, oh, okay, I want that. I want somebody. I don't want to make the mistake. I think it's part of the risk management. Like, some people are not willing to just take that risk, learn from it. They don't want to fail at it. They just want to get it right the first time. So
yeah, true.
That's part of the reason why people pay for courses and things like that. So the last question is the your legal responsibility when it comes to investment. Like you mentioned, the queen always has a share from everything. So like you mentioned property and some other things. So like, how much tax do you have to, you know, pay for these things?
Okay, so if we go into property, just property alone, yeah, with property alone, tax is just a small part of it. There are a lot of expenses. I'll give you an example. So someone sent me a property yesterday. I've been doing some research. I've been getting properties left, right, and center, and you find out that there are a lot of costs involved in any investment, especially in property. Now, the cost that you get involved with is, first of all, setting up a company. If you're going to use the limited company, that's going to be cost. Apart from that, the other cost you have is arranging your mortgage. You pay for that also. Apart from arranging your mortgage, if you need to do refurbishment on the property, you want to bring it up to scratch, you still also need to factor that in. And if you are going to let someone like manage it, you still have to factor that in also. So that's also money that you pay. So that's just from the outset, that is all expenses which you tend to have. Now, the other thing you want to look out for is that at the end of this, when you have done your for every financial year, you look at your expenses and you look at your income. Now, usually it's always a very good idea to get an accountant, because if you don't have an accountant, you find out that you have tax responsibility or tax liability. So tax liabilities are in two folds. One, if you run your property business, for instance, let's say this is property, you run property business through a limited company, you still have to pay corporation tax. I think it's about 19% on the interest which you make. Now, if you pay corporation tax on the interest you make, that is one thing. On the other hand, if you make money out of it, because first few years will probably be money that you are getting back from the money you invested as a director's loan into the company to buy property in the first place. If you decide to pay yourself, yes, I've owned this property, I've made money from the property, I decided to take a salary or pay myself dividends, you still have to pay income tax on that. So you find out that the tax liability is on two folds. One, your corporation tax, and two, personal tax. Now, those things may look trivial, like, no, it's not important, but you find out that HMRC never jokes with such things. They will always come knocking. And if you are back on your taxes, it can be a lot of problems. And the other thing, just to go back a few steps, talking about getting into things like property and courses, you find out that there are rules, there are laws around all these things. And if you don't know the laws, if you break those laws regarding probably renting out a property, you can pay dearly. I got this news just less than 48 hours ago. There are two Nigerians in the area where I live, and one of them owns a property, rents it out, house of multiple occupancy, and property is managed by another Nigerian. So two people. But because there are rules around renting and around standards of accommodation, they broke the rules. And between both of them, they were fined £101,000. That was fine.
Wow, that's a lot.
They took them. The council took them to court, and they had to pay £101,000. And that money, the landlord was supposed to pay 88,000. Then the other one was somewhere 12 or 13,000. I was supposed to pay the money within 9 months.
Wow.
So, so you see, so that's the idea. It's not. So there's a lot of things. So when somebody said, "Why should I pay someone to manage my property?" You should actually know that the person should know the rules to follow, and the person doesn't follow those rules, becomes a problem. And also insurance also is part of the whole process. So there are a lot of costs to look at, your legal responsibility. Now, I'll say for shares, if you're going to buy shares, if you use an ISA, no problem. So you're not going to pay tax on that. Yeah. But if you buy shares outside an ISA, for instance, there are some shares that you can't buy with an ISA. That's like emerging markets like Asia and things like that. If you buy shares, if you make profit on those, you still have to pay income tax on that. And the amount of tax you pay depends on your tax bracket. So if you're a low taxpayer, for instance, you earn less than £50,000, then fine, you pay your basic rate of tax. But if you are someone that earns higher, you pay higher rate of tax. But the question is, you're not an accountant. That's why you need to hire a good accountant. So people like Google, they pay hundreds of millions for accountants, so that at the end of the day, the accountants can look at ways to reduce their tax liability. So an accountant is always very important. If it's property, if it's something else, then you need to know what the rules are regarding what interest you make and how much you pay.
Thanks so much for all the tips that you have brought to us today. They're like foundation, points for us to build on, really. I personally don't have any more questions, really. As you said, there's a lot of research. If you decide that I want to go in this field, then you have to go and do your assignments and find out as much as you can. And employing an accountant is a really wise decision to make. And I know that sometimes people may be reluctant, how much am I earning that I'm employing accountants? But it does make a lot of sense, just to cover your tracks and, avoid any troubles, basically. So, yeah, thank you so much for today's video. It's been a privilege having you here. I'm so honored that you accepted. Thank you so much.
Thank you yourself.
So that's it for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I will share more investment opportunities as I come across them. Please don't forget to give my video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Till next time, from me to you, bye.